Hello, friends, and welcome to 2% the podcast, where we break down the tactical strategies used by today's leading D2C brands to learn how they grow their business by 2% every day. This show is brought to you by Caro, the #1 collaborative commerce platform for D2C's best brands. Today, I am joined by Gaby Tegen, the CEO and founder of Smartrr Subscriptions. In this episode, we talk all about subscriptions, and more specifically, we lay out a playbook for how to 2x your subscription revenue in 60 days. So I asked Gaby a ton of fundamental questions around things like, what offers convert people to subscription the best? How do we think about using content effectively across that subscription journey? We talk about email and SMS flows and which ones really matter. We talk about how to make your subscription portal a hub for consumer engagement and also make it as self-service as possible. We talk about the intersection between subscription and loyalty programs and how you actually might not even need loyalty software to create a loyalty program through your subscriptions. And we touch on a ton of brand examples for brands like Magic Spoon, FabFitFun, Feastables, Manscaped, Jolie, and a ton more that I can't even mention here. So all of this and more will be talked about in today's discussion. And now I present to you, Gaby Tegen of Smartrr. Gaby, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing good. I'm fresh off a trip from Seattle, so I'm back. I'm here. I'm fired up for this conversation, though. Honestly, I think there's just so much to talk about with subscriptions today, and I'm really excited to ask you a lot of questions that have been on my mind because generating recurring revenue (MRR) for a business can really be, I think, like one of the ultimate growth, loyalty, and kind of like remedies for fighting, like I guess what you could call kind of a downward economic climate right now for a lot of brands. And it's often said too, I think like subscription customers, are the most sought after, the most loyal customers often for a brand. So I really want to unpack here kind of like the Smartrr playbook to 2xing subscription revenue and the first 60 days. It's a claim that you guys make that I love, but I'd also love to just kind of pick your brain. You know so much about this space. So I would love to just start at the onset here. You work with, countless brands to grow recurring revenue through subscription. So I'd love for you just to give us a lay of the land of like what you're seeing out there right now in the consumer market, both from the consumer side, but also kind of on the brand side.
Absolutely. Great starting point. The year has been crazy, right? At least in North America, we've seen a ton of layoffs, cost-cutting efforts, and impacts to the economy. But what Smartrr hasn't seen, at least in our data, is a downward effect of brands being less successful through their Shopify ecosystem, which is shocking. We went into this year all anticipating that spend would go down, that households would try to cut extra spend on more luxurious goods, and we just haven't seen that play out. So we feel super fortunate that our brands have seen that success. That being said, there's always going to be two categories of subscriptions, right? There's the convenience factor, toilet paper, soap, hand washing, whatever. And then there's going to be the more community-based, loyalty-focused experiences where I am buying something because I love the brand. Mm-hmm. And now more than ever, people need a community that they feel a part of, whether that's from a local sports team or because of the Discord channel that they're a part of through their subscription of whatever product. They need that connection. So yes, the economy has seen some interesting turning points. No, we haven't seen a huge dip in really any dip, honestly, in the buying behavior of our consumers that our brands have. But yes, now more than ever, people, especially after COVID, especially with things going on in everyone's lives, need that community angle. And that's what we're so excited about.
Totally. Yeah, I think the community angle is a great call out as well. I think connecting a little bit of a deeper meaning to the products you're purchasing, the things that you bring into your home have somewhat of a value in that respect as well. And so it's great to call out both of those sides of things. And I'd love to maybe just understand too, so as, merchants are coming to you guys and looking to either, migrate from another solution or start subscriptions for the first time, you mentioned some of the kind of more why, I guess, broader challenges, but are there any specific challenges or opportunities that you see brands coming to Smartrr with that they're seeking more guidance and support around with respect to growing MRR and building a great subscription offering?
Great question. The number one thing is what we've been working on honestly for 2 years since our birth, which is that brands have historically been told to set it and forget it, right? They set up a monthly 10% off subscription and expect people to convert at point of sale and then to continue with that subscription with no benefit to subscribing other than the 10%, maybe free shipping. And that's the starting point. Is we look at the sites of the brands that we are starting to work with, and sometimes they are new to subscription. Sometimes they're just launching the brand from day one with us. But oftentimes they have subscriptions on their Shopify site. They're looking for something more robust. And almost always it's an audit that we do around how do we improve the PDP? How do we improve the conversion of product to checkout page to confirmation page? And then how do we engage the consumer so that when they need to cut down on cost, they're not cutting down on this cost?
Sure. Yeah. There's a lot that goes into that and making sure, I'm sure we're going to unpack a lot of that today, but that goes into making sure that someone continues to see value around the subscription offering. I've had, a couple guests on the show in the past, Magic Spoon, we just talked to Feastable, some other brands. So they've all kind of mentioned some of these similar themes. Like you want to make sure, that you're delivering value on all fronts with the subscription and you're not just, setting and forgetting it. So as I was doing research on this pod and kind of getting prepped for it, I was doing some digging on the Smartrr site, and on the homepage, it says that you guys 2x subscription revenue in the first 60 days. I love that. I think it's an awesome claim as a marketer, but also too, I definitely see the proof is in the pudding, so to speak. So I'd love to unpack this a little bit more, and we can kind of, just kind of talk around it a little bit. But can you break down like the playbook that you guys are really focusing on then for growing subscription revenue in that first 60 days as someone joins kind of, starts that with Smartrr?
Of course. First, there are fundamentals, right? If your product is meant for subscription, that's when we want to really dive in and try to optimize beyond the subscribe and save being the first option or creating benefits on the PDP for reasons why you should convert to a subscriber. We really then want to dig in to the experience that the consumer is getting so that, to your point, I'm not just buying Magic Spoon month over month because I desperately need Magic Spoon. That might be true for a lot of products. Armor is one of our products that their customers literally cannot live without. It is an amazing health product. But a lot of D2C brands are selling something that is based on preference or literally like the taste of that month, right? My baby started to eat food recently, and so I subscribed to a baby food creator. And ultimately, when she starts eating more solids than purees, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I don't really have that brand loyalty yet. So what Smartrr does is from day one, we try to build that experience and the relationship from brand to consumer through billing, but it's also through the experience that they're getting, so that instead of Magic Spoon or the baby food or whatever beauty product I'm using is the thing that I like right now, it's the thing that I want to use forever. And that's what we try to help brands do.
Yeah, totally. I love that. I think there's a lot, I think, that comes to mind when you talk about, creating that deeper connection to the subscription, that it's not just, hey, I get the 10% off, it auto ships, it comes to my house, like I set it and forget it, which are all great benefits for a consumer. Like I do that a lot with brands that I love, but like, yeah, you're trying to create that brand loyalty, go a little bit deeper. And I think that's where like a lot of D2C brands kind of have some challenges around that I've spoken with and learned about, is that, typically it's like there are, a dozen other competitors in our space. It's a preference thing often if you're not selling something super unique. What are some of the ways that you see brands like trying to differentiate themselves then and create that deeper connection? Like, are there any good examples that come to mind? Give us some kind of like maybe examples that kind of are a little more concrete with that.
Yeah, great question. Honestly, there are a ton of examples. I'll just try to give some of my favorites. One is just basic rules, right? If you have someone subscribe for X amount of orders, ask them for feedback, have a founder written email, the CEO of the brand, reach out to that consumer personally. That's one very manual way. You don't need Smartrr to do that. You don't need any subscription app to do that. You can just look at your repeat buyers and say, let me reach out to them personally. You can do the same thing through packaging. If you're maybe a smaller business that has the opportunity to do more custom packaging work, you can fulfill the first order with, again, a note from your CEO or founder. So there are some pretty light lift manual ways that you can do that relationship building. And then there are certainly some very unique ways of doing it that are at scale and brilliant in my mind. One brand that comes to mind is Jolie shower heads. The founders are incredible. The team is unbelievable. They're so bright, and they are by no means selling a shower head and filter. And what I mean by that is like they are solving a water crisis. They are improving hair, skin, they're improving health for their users. And so that's an example where it's more than a note. It's by buying my product, you are changing for the better. You are changing the world for the better. If you can bring consumers along with you on your mission of what your product is trying to achieve, that's the ultimate connection. And so those are a couple of examples. There are many in between, but hopefully that's a good starting place.
Totally. I love the Jolie example. I was just listening to a podcast. Rob Dyrdek was talking with My First Million about them and that brand story. It's not every D2C brand will fall in that category where you create something that like you put it on your shower and you suddenly have to keep, on that subscription to, have that filter and all that. Like that's a great, just genius business idea, but I think that's also like a really great call out to with a product like that. But even like I think about products that are more competitive in nature, like heck, I'll even call out like Magic Spoon, for example. Like if I buy cereal, what is going to keep me on that subscription and wanting to get that every month versus like go shop at my local health food store or like whatever that is. So I think like one of the other areas I see a lot of conversation around is like education and actually keeping folks like connected, whether that's your email flows, your SMS flows, the product stuff that you have in the inserts. Like are you seeing anything kind of cool or maybe some cool use cases around like how merchants are using email and SMS flows and treating subscribers, I guess, a little bit differently to make sure that they find that value, that they're really connected to the brand on a deeper level than just the kind of surface level benefits of a subscription?
Great question. We see all the time, particularly in the food and beverage space, to your point, it's a super competitive market, and a brand's website is not the only place that you can buy a similar product, right? There are not, honestly, infinite shower head companies that I see in my CVS and Trader Joe's, but there are quite a bit of sparkling water companies and cereal purchases that one can make the choice of making. So the things that we see in that more competitive environment, particularly where the consumer is not just being targeted online with those products, but being targeted everywhere that they go with those products, are things like limited time drops. So having your subscribers, your members of your club, it can take any form. It does not have to be in a subscription, but it certainly is most commonly in a subscription or membership, is limited time drops for your most loyal customer to get products earlier. Think of the Supreme model. Why can't that be something that Magic Spoon does? Seasonal products. So for back to school, I'm making this up, but like an Apple Jacks flavor cereal could, I'm not obviously intending
throwback, yeah.
They're such a good example, yeah. And so that's one. Another is constantly asking for feedback. Consumers have certainly resonated really well to the feedback that our brands have asked for. And that's because they start to feel like they're a part of the product ideation, right? It's like, Blake, as a subscriber, what features do you want out of the membership? Or literally just what flavors do you want out of your cereal? And the last is community. Constantly, we're seeing brands like Lemmy, like Magic Spoon, like all of these really powerful D2C brands that have exploded. I hate to use the word cult following because obviously that's kind of a controversial term, but it certainly is this following that they've captivated where people online are on Reddit pages comparing and rating different flavors of these products. And that's something obviously that every brand strives for and hopefully can achieve at scale.
Totally. Yeah. I love the call out of like getting the feedback and treating your subscribers like a membership kind of almost, or like an in-group, if you will. Like there's a lot of like this renaissance right now. An idea I've been thinking about is like, idea like a paid membership offering. And like, you've got like great, apps like Inveterate doing that right now. But like, I think what's really interesting is like a subscription offering has always been like that loyalty program, if you will. These are people who are, so committed that they want to, you know, buy from you frequently, and they give you your credit card to put on file. Like, it's just like, that's a level of trust already within that. And so I think like everyone's like, hey, I have to have a loyalty program for this, or I have to have this. But like a lot of ways, like I've seen a subscription offering like that kind of membership inside kind of like community, if you will. And like the LTOs that you were just mentioning, like I talked to Cameron from Ouroboros the other month, and he was talking about like, I mean, they're doing awesome stuff with LTOs, but like I think it's interesting to see like you can really treat your subscribers just so much like that membership group without having to go find all the other solutions to do like what you can do with you know, a subscription portal and like a Klaviyo or an Attentive, for example.
Well, and honestly, not every company has the capacity for all of these things, and that's okay. The point is not that every brand has to have a paid membership experience or has to have a subscription. That might work for some based on their product lines, based on their capabilities and their capacity to fulfill and to have a special offering, to break in even on the margin of their products with any kind of discount. It's not to say that you have to have these components for success. I think actually that's one of the things that has always been confusing to me about this space, is that there is kind of this like given recipe for success. And that's not what this is. Every business is unique. No one knows easily what the success that you see will be from. The point is that, exactly to what you just said, you can take little elements, take those, you know, surprise and delight effects, and disperse them through your customer experience regardless of how. It could be a note from the CEO, or it could be an email that goes out to 500,000 people that are subscribing to your newsletter. It can be super custom, or it can be scalable. It can be through a paid program or not. And that's one thing that I do want to emphasize, is it's custom to your business.
Totally. Yeah. There's no like one size fits all sort of strategy that works across the board. And like, you know, there are also, you know, a lot of cases where like, you know, the strategy that you're seeing like, you know, a really prominent brand running like will not apply to what you're doing. Or maybe you're in a business where like you don't sell something that's consumable and replenishable, and then a subscription might not make sense for that until you maybe iterate on that, add products to your store. Like there's so many different things that fall into it. But I think it's an interesting just kind of, you know, kind of point of like emphasis is like, I think like in this world of tools like that we have, you know, access to so many awesome things at the end of the day, like you still have to really think business by business that results may vary, or that there's some things that you can take, but then finding a way to kind of bring it back. To kind of bring the conversation back a little bit, you mentioned on the experience that we were talking about, just ways to treat subscribers, you know, differently, give them that kind of VIP experience, if you will. One of my favorite subscription brands that I subscribe to is Manscaped. They have an awesome portal. Like I always am discovering new products. I can swap things out. It's super easy and engaging to do, but it's also like as a subscriber, like I'm finding ways that like it's very clear they're treating subscribers in a different path than their one-time purchasers, which is awesome. I wish more brands kind of thought of ways to kind of like customize that experience, and there's definitely ways to do it across whether, you know, you're using whatever tool you're using. But like I'd love to understand maybe from like your perspective with the brands that you're working with, like what are some ways that Smartrr customers are thinking about like introducing new products, upselling, maybe cross-selling other things? Are you seeing any cool examples on that front?
For sure. I think first off, the notion that any brand can customize the experience is hopefully going to be true. I really do hope so. I think that sometimes, and I always use the example of being in college, and I would take a course that was so intimidating to me that I like physically blocked the thought process of absorbing the information until finals week. And then I was like, shit, I have to pass this class. I have to do well. And I would study super hard. And because I had to pass the class, I literally did not have an option. This does not put my academic career in the best of light necessarily.
Bringing back some PTSD for me as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I have dreams all the time. Yeah. So does my husband. It's actually quite funny. But then you end up figuring it out. And ultimately what you learn from that, or at least what I did, is that few things are so complex that you can't figure it out. And I feel like that's the same with a lot of the brands that we work with, is people overcomplicate what they need to do with their business. they kind of get analysis paralysis. It's a sea of different apps that they can use, but also a sea of different strategies they can use, right? Is it the custom note? Is it member only discounts? Is it gated content? There are so many good ideas and so much tech, to your point, that can support those ideas, that I think it's less so that brands have it so easily accessible to them. Maybe that's true, but I think a lot of it is just they're not necessarily being guided to the answer because there isn't an answer. And then they feel like because they're not being guided, there's no opportunity.
Sure.
So taking a step back, of course, there are so many things that brands can do. Gated content is a great one. We have a food membership box brand that has a loyal following. It's like Reddit pages of people talking about what is going to be in next month's box. And as soon as someone gets the box, they list out all the items and rank them. And it's a really fun experience. I'm a subscriber myself. One of the things that they came to us wanting to do that they were unable to do previously was an online cookbook that was gated for only their subscribers, and ultimately used the ingredients from that quarter's box, which I thought was epic, so smart. And that's something that we allowed them to do on Smartrr. That's one example, but certainly there are a million examples. It's just what each business needs that will, be a little bit more unique.
Totally. There's so much to unpack there. I love that you mentioned like sometimes like reinventing the wheel is not like the best strategy. And there's a lot of things that I think like, if you take one stroll on D2C Twitter, which I love, I'm not degrading anyway, but there's just a lot of like shiny object, like kind of like stuff going on of like, we're doing this strategy, like it totally works, like you need to do this, like, and there's just like, as kind of what we were saying earlier, like results may vary on a lot of these things, and like what's best for your business isn't always like true across the board. So I love that call out, but and also like what you were saying around gated content, that's something that like I haven't actually heard a lot in the subscription space from like other folks, but I love because it's like you're going beyond like everyone thinks like product first or like my email flows or this or that, but like actually creating content that people want to consume, I still feel like is one of the biggest untapped areas of D2C and even like SaaS here. Like I just think like a lot of people don't create content that really like connects at a deeper level with consumers, or that a consumer would want to give like 5, 10, 20 minutes to read. But if you do that, like this food subscription example, like I'm looking at maybe recipes, I'm looking at like what I'm going to do with this stuff, I'm getting excited, like that's the stuff for me where like I'm seeing more investment now is like content is truly becoming like the differentiator amongst a sea of competitive kind of like brands, and everything's kind of becoming commoditized in some ways. So like content is like, I mean, it's always been a differentiator, but I think it's like kind of in this renaissance now where brands are thinking about how can we get a consumer to spend more time with us? Like it's not always the product, it's the content that kind of can do that too.
100%. Another example is one of our brands is doing like a spice up your relationship date night type of experience. And so every month or every quarter, I think you have the option, you receive a different activity for you and your wife to do, for Tyler and I to do. And the neat thing about that is it's not just an item. It's literally like instructions on what you do, in what order, how you do them. Snacks are provided, like there's a playlist provided. I just feel like that is such a unique experience. And to the extent that other brands can leverage some of that, it doesn't mean that their whole product is an experience, to your point. But if they can leverage something that makes it a fun experience, opening the box, you want to do an unboxing video, anything like that brings that connection back to the brand and consumer.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's like, there's always an angle for every brand to think about with content. Like, I mean, when you think about, like I was listening to, Ash was on the pod from Avi a while ago, and he was talking about like what Avi's doing with recipes and like all this stuff. And I'm like, that's just really unique. But also like, I think about like Beard Brand, and we were talking with them, and they were, this idea of like the lifestyle that you live as a Beard Brand customer, and using their products and all like the customer stories. And like, I just think there's so much cool content that you can inject to your subscribers to connect them to what you were saying, the community, connect them to others that are buying these products. And that kind of also reinforces the social proof. It reinforces like I'm part of, something bigger. Everyone is using these products and seeing it. I'm seeing the same results, or whatever the case is. So I love it. I could talk about content for forever, but to move the conversation forward, I did want to talk about experience with subscriptions as well, and more like on the portal side of things. I was talking to Jess at Feastables a lot about like customer experience with respect to subscriptions. I think a big point of friction actually is related to like the portal and like overall management. I see a lot of times, and there's this emphasis all around like getting someone to subscribe and getting them on the subscription. But I think like the customer experience portion of subscriptions can be a little bit of a maybe a difficult thing for some merchants to figure out. And Jess was talking all about how investing in a really great self-service portal is like one of the ultimate ways to reduce churn, improve the customer experience, but also like reduce a ton of tickets, which I know like someone reaching out at 3 a.m. to change their auto ship or an address or all the things that can go wrong. Can you just talk a little bit about like making your subscription program as self-service as possible when like, I know obviously not everything could be self-service, but what are some of the ways in which you're seeing customers make it easier for their customers to be able to take advantage of that stuff?
Honestly, what can't be self-served? I think as you said that, I was trying to come up with an example of the common D2C brand experience. I can't imagine something where you need to have human intervention. And that's exactly what we sought out to do. I think the first step is making it super easy for people to just manage their subscription, whatever that means, change, cancel, add on items. Just accessing that portal is the number one most important thing, because if people aren't accessing it, if they're not logging in, if they don't know how to log in, if they can't log in, if there's nowhere to log in, then you have nothing to get their attention. They cannot do anything on their own, and self-serve is not possible. Mm-hmm. So what we've done there is collected a ton of data, actually super interesting. I won't bore you with all the details today, but super interesting findings on how people log in, whether that's through a magic link, through an email or text that you get saying, hey, Blake, time to manage your subscription orders going out in 3 days. We just came out with these new products. Do you want to add any on? You click the link and it auto signs you in.
Love that.
Another option is passwordless login, where particularly with some of our brands, passwords are just an issue for their consumers. Their subscribers are either not logging in frequently because it's a subscription that goes out every 6 months or even annually, or they're just not remembering their passwords. So we offer that as another option. I think to the point earlier in the conversation, making it something that they can access through whatever mode of communication works best for the brand, whether it's text, whether it's phone call I've seen, whether it's through the Twitter universe, whether it's through email. So knowing your consumer and knowing how they're going to get to that reminder is super important. For example, FabFitFun, I think, does a really good job of reminding people throughout social that a certain window where you can, FabFitFun is like a beauty lifestyle subscription box, mm-hmm. and they go out on a quarterly basis. They post on social ahead of their calendar of release saying, let's just say August, whatever, their boxes will be available for customization. But they know their consumer. They know that those consumers are on social and watching them. And so that has worked really well for them. The second thing is, after they've logged in, make it super easy for them to manage whatever they need to manage on a basic basis. Whatever can be self-serve should be easy for them to find. We're not hiding the cancellation button. We're not making 10 steps for them to go to add on an item. We want it to be front and center. So what we do at Smartrr is we work with our brands. We have a drag and drop theming capability where you can prioritize certain things you want your consumer to do. So one brand might say, we have a ton of swag that we want people to add on to their next order. And every order after that, we want to push swag. So maybe add-ons are at the top of the account portal. Another brand might come to us and say, actually, loyalty is the number one thing. We want people redeeming points. We want them to know how many points they have. We can put that on top. So it's prioritizing whatever the consumer is going to relate to the most, whatever will get them excited about that brand. And that's also something super personalized. And then the last thing is, what is unique about your brand? What is the connection? Again, that will be different for every brand that you ask. But if it's their Twitter account, if it's their Instagram account, if it's gated content and recipes, you want to add that to your portal too, so that there are many reasons why someone logs in. It's not just to cancel or to swap their items.
Totally. Yeah. I think just to summarize like all of that, it's, meet them where they are on the channel that they are, and that can vary. It's make the experience really great across the board. Don't hide things, don't make it a clunky experience, but then also to like put your brand into the portal, like make it fun. Like I always say, it's like, don't make it a place that like they're coming just to hit like cancel or like do something like super transactional. Like, yes, that's the intent of it mostly, but it's also like there's so many things you can do with that real estate. Like, they're coming there, they have intent. Every connection matters with the consumer when they come to your site, and that's an opportunity to not just sell them, but also like keep them loyal and in the ecosystem that your brand is trying to to create with that consumer. So I love all that. I think you touched on literally everything that I was thinking as well.
Yay.
Welcome to Caro, where the world's top brands and creators come together to sell each other's products through cross-store selling. You can join Caro as an online retailer, product supplier, or both. As a retailer or creator, you can sell other amazing products on your online store, allowing you to quickly expand your catalog and increase your average order value, all without the upfront costs of investment in new inventory. You simply sell more product and collect a profit. As a supplier, Caro opens up an entirely new sales channel, making your products available to be sold on thousands of other top brands and top creators' stores. Orders are sent right to their Shopify order queue, making fulfillment super easy. You're always in control as a supplier, choosing what products to make available to the network, what retailers you work with, and the margin that works best for your business. It's the biggest no-brainer in the history of e-commerce. There are literally thousands of brands and creators. Our team is ready to help you find a perfect pairing to your brand. What are you waiting for? Join Caro and start selling more together.
I'd love to also understand a question that's been on my mind a lot, is this idea of like, let's just say you're a brand that does sell a subscription product. Does every customer need to be a subscriber? And I was talking to Chandler at Magic Spoon about this on the first episode, and how Magic Spoon thinks about this sort of like, does every customer who's a one time or they purchase just one-offs, do we need to kind of try to get them onto subscriptions? And their view is like, let's make it highlight the value props. Let's try to educate, but we don't want to like overly bombard with every week we're sending an email like subscribe, and to the point where it's like it's almost like you're beating them over the head with it, so to speak. I'm curious like how Smartrr recommends customer or merchants really think about like promoting subscription offerings by striking the balance between not being like too promotion heavy, but also like making sure they know about the subscription as well, like in that opportunity to get onto it. So like, how do you kind of tackle that where you don't want to be overly pushy, but also want to promote, like you're trying to get people onto that program?
It's a great question. It's another one that I hate to say I can't give a blanket answer to. It depends on the brand. And from the Smartrr end, we're happy to help any brands benchmark with their ecosystem, their industry, to see what is common, at least what we're seeing is common in terms of split between one-time buyers, subscribers, and anything in between. But I think aside from just knowing your consumer and knowing your product, are you selling something super replenishable or not is the number one thing that people should be asking. But I agree, even if it is the most replenishable item, you don't want to disturb them with the ask, right? And the most important thing there is if you're asking for a favor, which maybe is a hot take, but you're asking them to do something for you. Ultimately, sure. When you send a marketing email, that's most likely what you're asking for. When you ask a consumer to do something for you, you need to give them back tenfold. So if you're asking them to commit to your product and subscribe, you need to give them 10 reasons why. And that could be through a discount. That could be through free shipping. What we've seen convert better is that community angle, is, Blake, you will get a birthday present from us every year that you're a subscriber because you're a part of our community. You'll get special invitations to events that we have across the country because you're a subscriber. We're having a happy hour in your city next week. There's a million things that you can do. I think ultimately it goes down to knowing your brand. Something that is super competitive, a product that is in retail locations everywhere you turn, such as breakfast goods or beverages, yeah, you probably do want to get that captive audience to convert to a subscriber, but you want to do it in a tasteful way and want, again, that everything you ask, you give back tenfold.
I love that. Yeah. It's just interesting to hear too, like what you're saying works the best on getting that conversion of a subscriber. But I also agree with you. Like at the end of the day, like a marketing email is literally just, hey, buy my shit. Like that's what it basically is intended to do. And like as brash as that is, it's like kind of, we're all trying to sell something when we send those marketing emails. And so like to give them 10 more reasons to say yes to that and to make it like a hell yes, absolutely, is like what I always think about. But I think like having some of those different value props as well, if you're able to offer it. And again, goes back to creativity and thinking about like, it's not a one size fits all kind of approach. It's not like we have to do the in-person events for us to have it, but like if you can, that's awesome. Like that's community building, or if it's the content, or if it's just the birthday gift that they get, like that's hitting on even some loyalty kind of program stuff as well that you can do without that as well. So I love all that. I think it's definitely just some like food for thought for folks to think about, is like there's a lot of creative angles to kind of take, but at the end of the day, I think it's striking the balance. And like if you have a great product, you have, a great marketing strategy, I think folks will naturally kind of gravitate their way towards wanting to subscribe if you kind of hit on those kind of areas. So like do those things well, make it prominent, and I think you can really hit on a lot of that ground. And then there's all the in-betweens that kind of fall in, I think, as well.
I think also when it comes to bridging a balance, creating a balance between what, especially we see this with smaller brands, high growth brands, lean teams. There's a balance that I think is hard to strike between gut instinct and what data shows. And the answer, if I'm just saying what I think, what I have seen as the answer on a blanket statement, is you need to develop a system in which your brand makes decisions that is based on, yes, gut. You know your brand. You've worked at that brand. You maybe started the company. You know what resonates. You talk to the consumers. But also data tends to give you some insights. If it's too early on in your business and you don't have the data, then yes, you're going to go off of gut most likely. Mm-hmm. But take a look at your Shopify analytics dashboard. Look at some of those awesome analytics partners that exist in the ecosystem and try to understand what's going to be the best thing for your consumer, because you don't always know based on your gut.
I totally agree. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to unpack on that. And I think also there's this, like, it's such a cliche, but everyone says talk to your customers as like one of the best ways to learn. I think talking to some folks that are subscribers as well, like maybe early adopters of the subscription program, can help you work out a lot of the kinks. It's often said too, like shop your store, like, every couple of weeks, every month, whatever, but like take the extra step, talk to people, learn, and then also kind of like make sure it's just you're continuously optimizing. I don't think like there's ever like a point at which you're like always tweaking, always making, D2C's a micro tactics industry is what I say. It's those 1% and 2% improvements. It's like why I named the podcast this. It's all the little things that we're doing to make it happen. If folks could take one thing away of everything we've talked about today as like the big takeaway to improve their subscription program, what would you say that one thing should be?
The answer that I say should be something along the lines of leverage your most loyal customers into growing your business, which is true. You should do that. But I think if I had to pick one thing that I would want people to take away, it's no one knows the answers. And the best thing that you can do is, to your point, Blake, make those tweaks, make those changes, be bold, know your product, know your consumer, and you will find those things out by testing the product, by buying online, to your point, every couple of weeks, and by talking to your customers. And once you've done that and you have that understanding, you start looking at the data to see what products are selling, what aren't, what are converting to subscription, what aren't. You gather with those closest to you, whether that's on your team, your investors, your friends and family. You cultivate some unique, innovative ways to get that message to your consumer. It's subscribe to our product, join our club, refresh and buy these new products that we just came out with, try our new flavors. Whatever that is, it's going to be unique to your brand. Just like everything that we do, the way that we do our life is unique. Everyone's lives are different. Everyone's businesses are different. And there's no one size fits all, whether it's for subscriptions or how to run your business in general.
Totally. I think it's a theme of this episode that we've kind of talked about. There isn't like a one size fits all, but there's a lot of like best practices and clues that give you the kind of the lay of the land and help you make those decisions on your own based on everything that you're saying. Gaby, this has been a blast. Before I let you go, I do want to so I've been doing this. You are the fourth or fifth guest I've done this with. I'm doing D2C rapid fire questions where we're going to get 2 minutes on the clock. I'm going to try to get you to answer as many as you can in 2 minutes. Jessa Feastables holds the record right now. She's answered 5 in 2 minutes. So if you're up for the challenge, let's see if you can maybe get on the leaderboard as the leader of answering the D2C rapid fire questions. How's that sound?
I feel like I'm going to flunk. I just told you I have PTSD from my college experience. You're going to put me through. Okay, let's try.
Let's do it. I'm going to put 2 minutes on the clock. And we're going to get through as many as we can. You can answer in one word or elaborate. Up to you. I'll let you kind of take the reins on that. But ready when you are.
I don't know how I'm going to do. Okay, let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay. Who is a must follow on D2C Twitter or LinkedIn that not enough people are following right now?
Maggie Sellers.
Maggie Sellers, love it. What's the best educational resource around for e-com right now?
2% podcast.
Boom, I love it. What's the best use case for AI in e-commerce?
CS.
CS, nice. If you could have one gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, metaphorically speaking, getting a message out to everyone in the world about subscriptions, what would it be and why?
Know your customer. Get them to convert into a lifelong relationship with your brand.
Yeah, it's a good one. Give me 2 D2C brands that should form a partnership and or collaboration.
Oh, love that one. I think about this all the time. Flouse and Remy.
Flouse and Remy. Okay, that's a good one. I like that. What brand do you derive the most inspiration from? Or not even brand, just you could name a person even too.
I have a couple. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's it.
I think that Triple Whale's marketing team is incredible. I think that Joe Lee's execution is unreal. We've been talking a lot about Ryan Reynolds in The Office lately. I think his whole thing, he's like the perfect human. So that's the human I'll give. And I have been talking about the clip, the paper clip from back in the day on Office, but I'll spare you the details of that. That one has come up quite a bit in The Office as well recently.
We'll have to talk about that offline. What is the best subscription moment you've ever had as a consumer?
Honestly, Amazon paper towel.
Nice.
Easy. I never have to think about it. It's there.
Yeah, that's a good one. We are at time, but you are the leader now. Wow, that is we hit them all. Love it.
Let's go. I love this game.
You are a champ at this. I actually buy all my paper towel at Costco in like large amounts and it stays in my closet. So I maybe need to do that because I don't like going to the store as much anymore. That's a life hack. I think we should.
You know what's so funny is, I mean, you're in San Diego, so maybe you have more space, but like we just don't have that in New York, or at least I don't. Yeah. So I love Costco, obsessed. Order from Costco, everything and beyond. But the large items are kind of tricky for us. So. And I know that as the like subscription experience company, we're supposed to be answering with experiential examples, but honestly, convenience works too.
Yeah.
And that's something that always people forget is like, if your product is based on convenience, like paper towel, not wanting to schlep it from the store, own that. Be that convenience,
Totally.
Product.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, like there's so many good examples that you could come from that. And like, I think it's being real too. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, like we probably have subscriptions from D2C brands, Amazon brands. Like there's so much that like, it's a hodgepodge. That's consumerism for you. Like there's so many ways in which we can buy things. But I appreciate all the kind of insight there. This has been an awesome episode, Gaby. It's been a blast to chat with you about all things subscriptions and more, honestly. As we wrap up, what's next for you and the Smartrr team? Where can listeners go to get in touch with you? Like give us some details there.
For sure. Stay tuned. We just grew the team. We're at 50 something folks now, which has been such a blessing. We've been able to really bring on some incredible talent. You'll be hearing more about that soon. We have some really fun product releases coming out before the end of the year. And to get in touch with us, feel free to hit me up, LinkedIn. I don't do Twitter. I'm afraid of Twitter, but LinkedIn is the spot. Email Gabriella@Smartrr, and we'll get you in touch with the right person, or we can chat. I love that.
Sweet. That sounds great. I will link out to all that in the show notes as always. And I agree with you. LinkedIn is like a much calmer place for me. Maybe I'm a little bit of a boomer in that respect. I feel like people love to rip on LinkedIn, but I feel like it's a great platform for D2C, just as much as Twitter, I think.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, I am wishing you all the best, you and the Smartrr team, for the rest of Q3 and 4. You're welcome back on the show anytime, Gaby. This was a blast, and we'll chat real soon.
Such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thanks so much for watching today's episode. I hope you got 2% better for watching, and if you haven't already, consider giving this video a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel so you never miss another episode. We have a variety of e-com topics to talk about this season that's going to get you 2% better each week across a variety of topics. Also, if you want exclusive content not covered in these episodes that's super tactical, head over to getcaro.com/podcast. You'll find full episode recaps, transcripts, and so much more content that we don't have time to cover in these episodes. Lastly, if you want to continue on the journey right now, I encourage you to do so. I will link to another episode right here. You can take advantage of that. Click just right there, and that'll take you to that episode. And with that, I'll see you next week on 2% the podcast.